News.
With me now is Margaret Gilmore, a security analyst for the Royal United Services Institute, and Adam Wagner, who's a human rights lawyer here in London. Thank you both very much for coming in. Margaret, let me start with you. Is it a simple equation, do you think, as the anxieties and perhaps the risks grow? Governments simply do need more powers to monitor and manage what's out there, the intelligence, to work out what's going on?
I don't think they should have unlimited powers, and I don't think they should have powers to go after personal things unless they have a warrant, and I prefer the warrant to come from a judge. But we are in a different age. We're no longer where we were 30 years ago, where it was a case of a letter or a phone call being intercepted to try and find out who is networking with whom if they happen to be a terrorist suspect. Now it's a case of they're using the internet, they're communicating on the internet in very sophisticated forms. Part of the problem is that whatever laws we have currently in the UK, some of the big internet companies abroad, particularly in America, simply will not adhere to those UK laws and will not hand over information about terrorist suspects, even though if there is a warrant. And so we need greater powers so that the intelligence agencies can do what they need to do, the powers they need in order to make these big internet companies abroad cooperate more.
Adam, we might not like it, but it's a fact of life. They need more control over us.
Well, I think that remains to be seen. I think there's a false dichotomy here between liberty and security, which is the way this debate is set up, or the way many of these debates are set up. The human rights framework has no issue with anti-terrorism laws as such. Of course, the most basic human right is the right to life. The key question is how you balance the different rights proportionately. So how do you balance the right to life, protected by the police, by the security services, with, say, the right to privacy, the right to freedom of expression?
OK, but at the moment, Margaret's point is that we're in a slightly different era, and the sense of threat is greater than it's been for a long time, and of a different order.
I think that's key. It's the cyber issue, the fact we're in the cyber age now, and that's making it more difficult.
Well, I think we've been in the cyber age for quite a long time. I mean, the September the 11th attacks were planned online, so the security services have had plenty of time to think this through, and they already have extremely onerous powers of data mining, of data surveillance. There's a real question here as to whether current powers are adequate. And of course, with the changing nature of the threat, with more sophisticated terrorists, you're always going to have to review that. But on the other hand, you have to be extremely careful, cautious, and make sure that the debate being had in Parliament and being had in the public is a proper one, and that these things aren't just passed through on the nod. And
do you need, Margaret, like here in the UK, David Cameron threatening to close down the likes of WhatsApp and Snapchat, which are used by millions of people in a very informal, casual manner? That's heavy-handed and unnecessary.
I think what he's got to do is make sure that he has that the intelligence agencies have the power, preferably not under warrant from a politician but a judge. That's where I would differ with what he's saying. That they have the power to go into Snapchat, WhatsApp, messaging service on Facebook, or any other part of the web, the dark parts of the web, as the head of MI5 put it a couple of weeks ago, in order to pursue somebody they think is a suspect. I mean, last week, the week before last, when the Paris sieges were ongoing, there's little doubt that all sorts of internet powers were being used to track associates of those two who were on the loose at that point, to make the connection with the third gunman.
But then how much is this about the ability of intelligence services to perform? Because you could take the Belgian example and say, courtesy of the intelligence they had, they cracked it. They did a very good job.
As the UK has, in the last 3 months, they've cracked 3 plots, and there would have been deaths if those plots had got through. So a lot are been getting through. Well, yes, clearly you do, because there is this issue over the internet companies. Some of them are cooperating, but some, particularly in America, are not cooperating when it comes to giving details about what's going on between networks of suspects abroad.
Do you think, Adam, that this sense of, I mean, the Liberal Democrats here in the UK again talk about the Snoopers Charter, this fear of almost a police statism of grabbing hold of all our information, do you think that's shared by the public?
I think
in these very worrying times? I
think that the public are largely unconcerned, it seems to me, which is odd.
Which presumably worries you.
Well, in America, they're a lot more concerned, and that's why there's an extra responsibility on both the media and parliamentarians to make sure that these laws aren't just given to security services, particularly in the wake of a terrorist outrage. Now, remember that these current laws were proposed before Paris, but they were debated after Paris. So that just goes to show the problem of this dynamic where people are frightened, and therefore it's very difficult to stand up in Parliament and say, well, actually, I want less protections for the public, because that's how it sounds. But the reality is that it's the lawyers, the judges, and in the end, the MPs again, who have to pick up the pieces when bad laws are drafted and when there is too much power given to the security services.
We'll have to leave it on that note. Adam Wagner, Margaret Gilmore, thank you both very much.